Hey everyone, it's Kevin with Divinely Designed, and I am making tallow from scratch, beef tallow. So I thought I would do a video on it. I have another video, but there's a little difference here. So normally I get my tallow and I get the butcher to grind it up. Actually, I have my dad do it. He lives out in the suburbs and has a butcher that he knows. But this time he forgot to ask to get it ground up, which I'm a little annoyed about, but I thought I would do a video and kind of show you what I do. So you can see I have a big hunk of beef fat there. There's kind of a big bag of it from the butcher, so I got about 12 pounds of it. And then over on the counter you can see my crock pot where I've already put some in. So I think the key is to try and get it as ground up as possible, which is why I like the butcher to grind it up. But if not, you know, I just cut it up myself. So here I'm going to make sort of slices and then kind of turn it and then make cross cuts. And then, after I get that done, then they're all sort of uniform. Then I just take my knife and I kind of hold my hand on the tip and just sort of drive it down. Again, kind of trying to get small pieces if I can. I don't think making tallow from scratch is hard, but it is time consuming, I will say. Once I get this, I'm probably going to spend a half hour on cutting up the fat, but then once my crock pot is kind of full, it's really just a matter of kind of watching it until it's all done. So it's a good to do on a day when you're at home kind of doing other stuff. But, okay, so then, hold on one second here, I'm going to adjust my camera, if I can. So then I'm just going to take my tallow and put it in here. Now some people say that when you make this it makes the house smell. I mean I think there is an odor to it, but to me it smells kind of like bacon, which I am not necessarily upset by. So yeah, be prepared for that. I mean there is an odor to it when you're making it, but okay. Let me get a towel for my hands. So my crock pot is probably about half full. Let's see if I can get a better angle here. So it's about half full. So I'm going to continue to chop up my fat and add it in here. I have my crock pot set on low, and that's where I'm just going to leave it to let the fat sort of melt. And then I'll stop the video now because there's nothing more to watch for cutting up fat. But we'll check back in a little while after it's had time to cook, okay? So stay tuned. Okay, folks, here we are about, this is about a half hour into it. So I cut everything up, put it in, and it was filled almost to the top, I would say. But very quickly, as it starts to melt, it will go down. So you can see a lot of it is already melted. It's only been a half hour, but we still have lots of big chunks in there. I have it still set on low, which is 200 on my crock pot here. And I'm just going to give it a stir and let it sit probably for another hour or two, and then come back and give it another stir. And just kind of keep doing that until I get most of the fat melted. So, alright, just stay tuned. After the break will be another update. Okay, it's been about an hour and a half, and you can see it. It kind of formed, it's kind of a mass on top. So I'm just gonna kind of break it up a little bit again and stir it. But we're definitely in a very liquidy kind of phase. I still have it set on 200, and my whole house does smell like bacon now. um, I think I'm going to give this one more hour, and then I'm just sort of breaking up some of the clumps. And so I'm going to give it another hour, come back, and then I think at that time I will strain it and put it into a big pot. But I'm going to give it a little bit more time here to melt some of this fat, because there's still quite a bit of fat in here, I'd say, that is usable. Just breaking up some of the bigger clumps here. But it looks like it's going to be lovely, lovely tallow. See, there's a big clump. I'm going to break that up so it can melt. Okay. Okay, that's it. Stay tuned. After the break, should be another update. Okay, everyone. So it has been, let's see, a total of, it's very close to 3 hours that I have cooked this. And I think I'm at a point where I'm not going to get much more out of the fat that's left over with it sort of sitting in the oil. If I wanted to strain it out and put it back in, I could probably get some more out of the fat. But I'm not going to do that. I usually make kind of small batches, so this will be fine. So I have that I just removed from the crock pot, so it's still very hot. And then in a big soup pan, I have it about somewhere around a third to between a third and a half filled with hot water. And then I have a strainer, a colander, that I have lined with a double layer of cheesecloth. And I was trying to think of like what you could use besides cheesecloth, but I don't think there's really anything else. It works so well. I can't really think of anything else that will strain and keep things out, but so I think cheesecloth is the best choice here. Alright, so now I'm just going to pour into there. And you can tell it's still very hot. I'm going to try and make sure my cheesecloth stays out here. The cheesecloth works really well, but you do want to make sure it doesn't get stuck down in there. Okay. Alright, just going to let that settle down for a second there. Now obviously you want to be very careful because this is so hot. So if you don't use the cheesecloth, even unless you have a really fine colander, you're going to get some of those pieces of fat that will fall through, and you want to try and keep this as clean as possible at this point. That's going to help you get a very nice white piece of tallow that you don't have to spend a ton of time cleaning. So I'm just letting this drain off here. Now, like I said, I could probably take this fat and put it back in and put it back in the crock pot and turn the heat back on, but I probably wouldn't get a lot out, and I think the more you sort of like process it, the darker the lard, the darker the tallow becomes. So if you want like the whitest soap or the whitest tallow you can get, try to keep your temperatures as low as possible and use the first, I want to call it a pressing, but you know what I mean, like the first round here. If you want to be frugal, you certainly could take this, I think, and pull up the sides here. Hold them up like this. And you could give it a good squeeze. But just remember, it's still really hot. Okay. That is good for my purposes, I think. Okay, so now I have this pot that has a bunch of the oil, the tallow, the fat, mixed in with some water. I'm going to move this to the stove, and I'm going to put it on a fairly high flame because I want it to boil. And then I'm going to boil it just for not long. I'm going to bring it up to a boil, let it stay there for maybe a minute or two or three, and then I'm going to turn it down. Now I have heard that you can add salt to the water and that will help to sort of clean the tallow. I've never done that, so I think I might try that too, is to throw in a little bit of salt and see how that affects it. But okay, so onto the stove. Hang in there, and after the break should be an update. Okay, everyone, so I put it on the stove and you can see we're at a nice rolling boil, and we want that we want the heat, but we also want the physical agitation because what we're doing really is cleaning the tallow and sort of washing it. I did throw in about a tablespoon of salt and just let it boil here. Now, if you have, you can see, or hopefully you can see, there's a little bit of foam that's sort of forming on the top. If that foam persists after you turn the heat off, just take your spoon and you can sort of skim it off the top, and so you end up with a nice clean bar of tallow. Now it may not, some of this just may be bubbles from the boiling here, but you may get a film that's on top. Okay, so I've left it boil maybe a total of 3 minutes. It hasn't been real long. And I'm just going to turn the heat off. And then I'm just going to let this sit here. Now I'm going to let it sit probably for a couple of hours. I want it to, I'm not going to be finished with the process just yet, but I need this to go into the fridge. And so I want it to be cool enough that I can take the whole container and just stick it in the fridge for a couple of more hours. So all I'm doing is just letting it cool down. The oil or the tallow will rise to the top of the water, so you don't need to mess with anything and pouring it off and anything else. Just leave it right in this container, and we're going to let the tallow solidify on the top of our water. Now I'm going to let it sit here for a couple of hours. When it's cool enough, I'm going to put it in the fridge for a few hours. I probably actually will leave it in the fridge overnight. And then after the break, we should have tomorrow morning. I'll take it out of the fridge and we'll take it out of the pot then. So stay tuned after the break. Okay. Okay, everyone. I decided not to let it sit overnight because I was able to put this in the fridge a while ago. So it's been in there almost 4 hours, I want to say. It has been almost exactly 12 hours since I started the process this morning of chopping up the fat. And I put this in probably, I want to say around in the fridge around 6 p.m. and it's 10 p.m. now. So I think it's been sitting there for 4 hours. And hopefully you can tell it's a very nice white. I'm going to take a small knife. I'm going to take a small knife. This is like a grapefruit knife, I think, and just run it around the side, I think. Okay. And then I'm just pushing down on one side, and that should lift it all up. And that came out beautifully. And you can see I have a little bit left. I'm going to get that in a second here. Okay, so this is the bottom, and you can see we had some, some little of the brown bits, this is not fat, left over. So I just take a spoon that has kind of a sharp edge to it, and just scrape it off. Now, if yours is sort of dirtier, you can wash it again, but this will be fine, I think. I'm just gonna kind of scrape some of this off, and then I'm probably actually going to be able to wipe a lot of this off here. And then, any little brown bits or whatever. And I'm not taking very much off here. It's just a very light scraping off the top here, and that'll get my beef tallow nice and clear. Okay, I think that is probably it. I may spend just another minute or two cleaning it up, but otherwise, I think that's it. So there you go. So that's beef tallow from scratch. I'm going to cut this up into probably quarters or so, and then I put it in a Ziploc bag, and then I store that. I store some in the fridge if I'm going to use it soon, and then you can freeze others as well. So I'll probably put half in the fridge for now and half in the freezer, and then just let it thaw out when I need to use it. That stuff that's remaining in the the soup can. I will take that out because that's all pretty good stuff in there. That's clean also. And I'll just add that too. So, okay, that's it. So this is making beef tallow from scratch for use in soap making. If you like this video, click that thumbs up button. If you're not subscribed to my channel and you like crafty and soapy videos, click that subscribe button. And comments and questions, leave them below. I will try to answer them if I can. And check back here at Divinely Designed for more crafty and soapy videos. All right, everybody. Have a great day.